So, good morning, viewers at home. This is another educational series of the Omega Bio-Edutainment. Today, again, we are going to a different topic, a different course entirely, and that is immunology. So, immunology, and today we are going to focus on the adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity. So today, you will recall that we started immunology as a course when we actually talk about two arms of immunity, where we talk about adaptive immunity as well as so recall. We are to recall that there are two arms of immunity. So the first one is innate, and the second one is adaptive. So I told you that innate is non-specific, whereas adaptive is specific. Okay, I told you that innate is inborn, and this one is acquired. Inborn and acquired. I told you that this one is immediate in response. I told you that this one is delayed to certain points. I told you again that this one is what we are born with, and it continues between 0 and 5 years, and this one continue greater than 5 years and above. So, and we have also gone so far in talking about different components of innate immune system, different cellular components, where we talk about, particularly we talk about physical barriers. So under that, we actually look at skin as an important aspect of a physical barrier. Apart from the skin, we also look at mucous membrane. Okay, look at mucous membrane. So we also went further with the chemical component of the innate immune system, and we actually look at the involvement of certain chemicals like defensin. We also look at like hydrogen peroxidase, hydrogen peroxide. Then we look at some that are bacteriocin, and so on. So then the third part, we actually look at the cellular components, and we are able to actually look at cellular components like macrophages. This is symbol for macrophages, phagocytosis, phagocytes. So I said macrophages, they are professional phagocytes. That is, they are specialized in swallowing, and that's why macrophage will stand a great test as an example of cellular component of the innate immune system that they use. So we will also look at eosinophils, then neutrophils as part of this. We also examine natural killer cells, Okay. Apart from that, we look at cytokines. So that I told you that there are different types of cytokines. In fact, what cytokine does is that the function as a um, small protein in nature, which have immunomodulatory features. That is, they are the one that will bring back the immune system into after it has been challenged as a result of challenges from pathogens. So then we also look at dendritic cells, dendritic cells. So DC. Then the fourth part, I mean the fifth part is that one of the complement system. Complement system, and I've actually told you that from the word complement, this is certain proteins that it was discovered that there are other proteins that are found in the plasma membrane, in the plasma of the cell of the blood, that later on it consists about more than 27 different proteins that intricately work together in order to complement the efforts of other arms of the innate immune system. That is, if there is an antigenic challenge that will actually involve the innate immune system, so any of these can actually be recruited. So it could be as a result of a physical barrier. So when I told you that the physical barrier is the first line of defense that is being put forward by an organism. So because once the skin is actually being compromised, that means bacteria or pathogen will be able to enter. And don't forget that once the first line of defense is already being broken, it's just like when an armed robber comes to your house and they are able to scale through the fence or the gate. So the next thing is that how will the occupiers of those of that house be able to defend themselves against every other? So that means they have to rely on other weapons. So the same thing that happens once the physical barrier is already being compromised by the host immune system. That means they are left with every other aspect of it, which could be chemical component of this, which could be chemical. Once the challenge by the chemical is also being compromised, so that one will leave us with any other one, which is going to be cellular component of the innate immune system. And all this, just like I told you, they will work intricately in order to be able to achieve one goal. The goal that they will work to achieve is just how would they prevent the establishment of a pathogen in them. And don't forget that I said pathogen, you must not forget the host pathogen relationship. That there is no way the host will be able to do without pathogen, because pathogens, they also have what they also do. They also have some functions in the body. It's just like if there is no pathogen, if there is no pathological challenges, that means there won't be anywhere where the adaptive immune system will actually learn from. It's just like if you do not have experience, you don't have experience of anything, that means once that challenge comes, it might actually sweep away every other thing that you have, because you don't have experience. You won't be able to know how you are going to actually take it. So if the immunological aspect is not being challenged, that means there won't be room for anything to acquire, nothing to acquire, because adaptive immune system will actually develop when there's been prior experience. And don't forget that the second arm of the immune system will actually work as a result of experience, and it is from that experience that they will now develop what is now known as a immunological memory. So here, as a kind of distinction between the two, here there is no memory, no memory cells is involved. Here, immunological memory is the key. Immunological memory is the key. So we are going to see it today. So this is just a kind of a recap of what we have been doing so far in this course. So we are going to, just like I told you, we are going to be so specific in dealing with today's topic, which is on adaptive immune system. Now, looking at this, even from the word adaptive. So if you do not adapt, one of the key characteristics of an organism is ability to survive and adapt into a new area. So this part of immune system will enable microorganism and will enable the host to be able to adapt to different types. So that is telling us it's going to help us to be able to adapt to different pathological challenges. So that is telling us that for adaptive mechanism to be able to develop very well, so they should develop to the level that there will not be any other successful challenge from anywhere. If it is a viral challenge, it could be from viruses, it could be from bacteria, it could be from environmental challenge sometimes, because there are some environmental challenges that will also require a kind of immunological response. Just for example, now there are some people that will actually develop hypersensitive reaction. That is, they will become allergic to certain level of maybe food, substances, environment, pollen, and all this one. So there could be some times that the environmental challenge could be so to actually trigger immunological response. But one thing that is very, very important about the adaptive immune system is that it is highly specific. It is highly specific. Like I said about the innate immune system, is not that specific. It is non-specific because it might not be able to actually recognize. It will just recognize that, oh, we have a foreign material, we have a foreign challenge. Don't forget that I said when you were talking about antigen, I told you that antigen must be foreign. Antigen must be foreign. Apart from being foreign, it must be able to trigger an immune response. If it is foreign and it's not able to trigger an immune response, that means it is not, and it cannot be regarded as a, just like I said, but it is an antigen which actually requires immunological response or reaction from, it could be from antibody. So that means that the innate immune system will just recognize that, oh, we have an invader. It will not be able to differentiate it into maybe this viral particle, or this is from a bacterial infection, or this is environmental challenge, or this one can be from a fungi, or it can be from any other challenge from anywhere. So it won't be able to differentiate. So, and that is why part of the important arm of our adaptive immune response is cellular differentiation. It's going to differentiate. In fact, adaptive immune system is such that it is going to make sure that the right arm, the right cell is actually being deployed to be able to cope with the immunological challenge. So, but each time we talk about this, you should know, at least as a student of immunology, you should be able to know at your fingertips, to be able to differentiate between innate immune system as well as adaptive immune system. And basically today, under the adaptive immune system, we are going to consider what are the components, what are they made of, what are the components, apart from the components, what are the functions of each of these components. Then we'll be able to now know the types of all these components, and probably maybe we will now conclude these aspects by looking at picking a typical example of a challenge, which could be from viral challenge, it could be bacterial, it could be environmental challenge that will actually require that we engage immune system, that we engage them. But don't forget that just like I said, that there are two arms of immunology, two arms of immunity. The first arm, which is innate, the one we are born with, and the second arm is adaptive. But there are there are certain cells that will serve as intermediary between innate and adaptive mechanism. We are going to see this, but basically it is the dendritic cell that perform that function of being a kind of that will perform the role of mediatory role between innate adaptive system as well as acquired. The first, just like I said, the first job we are concerned with is to actually recognize what are the components, of adaptive immune system. Okay, don't forget that both innate and adaptive immune system will actually develop from the same source. They develop from the same source, and that source is called hematopoietic cells. Hematopoietic cells. Two of them develop from there. So one will go into innate, and the second arm will go into what? Adaptive. Okay, adaptive or the acquired. Now, under the adaptive, now we now have three. Okay, under here we now have three arms. Okay, the first arm is what is actually known as a natural killer cell, NKC, natural killer cells, which I said the short form is so the second aspect is now what is a T cells. Then the last aspect is a B cells. Okay, the first, I told you that two of them, both innate and adaptive, they have just one root. They are developed from the hematopoietic cells of the bone marrow. Two of them are formed from the bone marrow. So, but when they differentiate, that is when they differentiate, they can either be differentiated into innate arm as well as adaptive. And don't forget that today we have the business we have today is on adaptive immune system, and the first component is natural killer cells, then followed by T cells and B cells. The be it B cells or T cells will actually depend on the source. It's going to depend on the source. So the T cells are further divided into three. They have three other arms. Okay, the first one will be memory, the one that will be responsible for memory T cells. That is, immediately after the pathogen is being challenged, by the release or by the recruitment of adaptive arm of the immune system, which can be, if it is going to involve T cells, it is going to be either memory cells, or it is going to be cytotoxic T cells, as well as helper T cell. So we are going to see all these and do more with them as we go on. But you should know that T cells can be divided into three. We have the one that is responsible for memory, that is immediately after cytotoxic T helper cell is being triggered or recruited to go and deal with the insults from the from antigen. So there will be some of these cells will be used for memory T cells. So we are going to see what memory cells are as we actually go on. Okay, but you should know that at this level, that T cells can either be memory cells, CTC, that is cytotoxic cells, CTC, or it can be HTL. We are going to see this, and this is basically what they normally do. What they normally do in vaccine production. Any vaccine or any drug that is going to be produced that is not going to have effect on giving us memory cells, or it is going to be cytotoxic cell, or it's going to be this, will not be actually be a good vaccine product. And this is the principle that they use in what is called immunization. They go on, and just like I said that so let's now see what the B aspects of B cell aspect of adaptive immune system, what they are actually made of. So they are made up of T2. They have two arms. The first one is plasma cells. Plasma cells. So these plasma cells is what will eventually give rise to what is known as an antibody. Will give rise to antibody production. So, and another word for antibody is immunoglobulin. So we are going to see all this as we actually go on. And the other aspect, just like what T cells do as well, the other aspect will also be for memory cells. So it will be for memory cells. So that is telling us that whatever might be the challenge that is going to involve the adaptive immune system, it must be a kind of it must be used for memory as well. So we will now be picking the functions. What are the functions of the adaptive immune system? The function of the types of adaptive immune system. Now, before I go on, you can also come across some textbooks that will tell you that adaptive immune system is divided into cellular as well as humoral. Cellular as humoral. And it is still the same thing, because T cells, this one involves T cell, and anyone that have to do with T cells is regarded as a cellular immune response. We are going to see this. Then anyone that has to do with humoral has to do with antibody production. So we are going to actually do all this when we come on. So the first characteristics of the adaptive immune system that we are going to consider is, number one, specificity. It is the job of the adaptive immunity to be able to be very, very specific It must be able to be so specific. Specificity we have to do with I told you that it is highly specific. You must know. Uh, the adaptive immune system is highly specific in the sense that the cellular response or the immunological response that is going to be directed when there is bacterial infection will be quite different from when we now have infection that is coming from viruses. So ability to differentiate between different types of immunological challenge is the first characteristics of adaptive immune system. That is number one. To be able to differentiate between infectious agents, whether it is going to be viral infection or it's going to be so an ability to be highly specific is also what is going to make it to be able to produce memory cells at the end of the day. The type of memory that will be retained for viral infection will be quite different from the type of memory is a viral when it is a parasitic infection. So the first ability is ability to be highly specific. Then number two, the adaptive immune system should be able to differentiate non-self and self. So if there is a kind of compromise, if there is a compromise in the adaptive arm of immunity, in their ability to differentiate self from self, will lead to what is called autoimmune diseases, like arthritis, diabetes type 2 is. So that is telling you that the will be, it's just like whenever your night guard or whenever your security is not able to differentiate your own children from armed robbers. So you just say, just shoot. So if they shoot, that means including your children, they are also at danger. The same thing with the adaptive immune system. They should be able to differentiate non-self, that is cells that are foreign, cells that are saying able to differentiate them from the one that is from your body. So, and that is what part of what is actually needed in specificity of the adaptive immune system. So that is why it must be very, very specific. Then the second characteristics of the adaptive immune system is what? Is memory. Is memory cells. So the adaptive immune system should be able to make sure that at the end of the dealing with the strangers, at the end of clearing or preventing the establishment of a pathogen in the host, there are some cells that will be retained within the body that will give a kind of memory that, oh, that cell, the adaptive immune system should be able to recognize again that, oh, this is a challenge that is actually from viral infection, so that whenever there is a secondary infection or there is reinfection, the adaptive immune system will not have to go again in the process of recruiting natural killer cells, engaging the T cells, and the T cell will now decide whether it is going to be cytotoxic cells that will be needed, or it's going to be T helper cell that will be needed, or will decide whether it is going to be B cells or it's going to be involvement of antibody, or whether it has to engage. You see, this is a long process. And that is the reason why there is a kind of philosophy that will say that no, that a an immunocompetent host, any host, must not suffer twice from an infection. So that is telling you that whenever you have maybe you have an infection that is maybe infection by a parasite. For example, we have it in our memory. For example, now it's just like our young girls that are being one way or the other. They call it breakfast. That is, whenever they have disappointment with from their boyfriends, they will now say, "Oh, no, no, no." If another person is trying to use the same kind of deceit to be able to still break the person's heart again, you know, say, "Oh no, I have now learned my lessons." So it is still the same principle of memory cells by the adaptive immune system. Because don't forget that the innate part of this does not have a prior knowledge. They do not have experience. And what do we call experience? Experience is when you have suffered an insult once and you do not want it to happen again. That is what is called experience. And that is why sometimes you will now be sharing your experience to others. So the same thing. So the second characteristics or feature of an adaptive immune system should be the ability of the adaptive system to be able to have immunological retention, immunological memory of the infection by antigen. So they will have, so if the shape, even the shape and the type of chemicals that is being put forward, anytime they don't see anything like that, now they will be able to use it as a kind of experience. That is a adaptive immune system. Okay. The third one is versatility. The third is what is called versatility. Okay, the adaptive arm of the immune system should be versatile enough. Versatile have that ability to take care of any insult. Just like I said, that will be put up by the pathogen. The same thing that the pathogen will also do. Some pathogen, they have actually exhibited some certain mechanism that will make them not to be reached by the host immunological response. For example, there are some pathogen that part of the mechanism is what is called immune evasion. Immune evasion. They will make sure that the immunological response of the host is not able to actually do what? To be able to recognize them. And that is exactly what happens in the case of latent TB. The tuberculosis, the bacteria will be in the cell and it is going to be there for a long time until the immunological response or the immune system of the host is now down before they will now be reactivated. So also part of what an host should be able to do is to make sure that the adaptive immune arm of developed and is able to be very, very versatile to be able to deal with diverse challenges. It could be from parasite, from anywhere, to be able to cope with any insults from anywhere. So that is the third. Then the fourth now, I have also mentioned this, is tolerance. Is self-tolerance. The host should be able to tolerate his own self, should be able to tolerate his own self. So, and should not at any point in time you should not at any point in time respond. So, because if it is not able to differentiate, if it is not able to tolerate self, that means it's going to lead to autoimmune response. Don't forget that auto means what? Self. Anyway, so the fourth aspect of it is mechanism that will make sure that the host is able to tolerate the cell that is coming from the host. And this is exactly what they use in what is called grafting, organ grafting, or transplantation. Organ transplantation. It's just like okay, you will see that there are some times that if somebody is involved, if an host is involved in an accident, that maybe parts of the skin is now going to be, maybe is off as a result of the person lost it at during an accident. So sometimes they will go and pick, they will, as a result of a kind of surgery, they will go and remove some part of that skin from another part, and they want to put it from the same host. They will now use it to be able to put it in that. That is what is called grafting. That's what is called grafting. So once the adaptive immune system is not able to tolerate, is not able to recognize it as self, that means it is going to do what? It is going to fight against it. So, and this is self-tolerance is also what they use in pregnancy. That's what they use in pregnancy. So many times, the question is, what we call pregnancy is as a result of, when there is fertilization, is as a result of the sperm cell from sperm cells will go and fertilize. It's going to fertilize the egg. This is a female gamete. So any cell that this one is going to tolerate is going to regard it as self, part of the cell. Ara wa ni is part of us. So we do not need to actually fight against each other. That is why. And once this one is able to tolerate it, that's when the fetus needs to differentiate and grow until we now have a complete human. But if the adaptive immune system is not competent enough to self-tolerate, that is going to be immune disease, or what is going to lead as immunological rejection. Immunological rejection. They also use this self-tolerance aspect of adaptive immune system in blood transfusion, and that's why they tell you that O can donate for O, B can donate for B, and that is exactly. So that means even if it is coming from another person, if the adaptive arm of the immune system is not able to recognize it as self, that is going to lead to rejection. And that is when you now see that, this group of blood group cannot give blood to another person. So that is the basis of or the basic principle of what is called blood transfusion. I've given you like three examples whereby self-tolerance is highly needed. I told you of organ grafting, organ transplantation, when they will remove an organ from, when they will remove an organ from one person and come and give it, it is leading to rejection. That is not tolerance. Then I told you about pregnancy. Now I told you about pregnancy, and I also mentioned blood transfusion as another this. So another thing is that is highly very important. Important characteristics of adaptive immune system is what is called regulation. They have regulatory capability. they are able to actually recognize. Hmm? You see, after they must have dealt with the insults, after they must have dealt with the insult from the foreign particle, that is from antigen, whereby they do what is called immunological clearance. They will do immunological clearance. There are special cells that perform the role of surveillance. That perform the role of surveillance. It's like when you have a gun and your security. So maybe successfully, your security have been able to kill or overpower the invading armed robbers. So at a point in time, you now move on and clear them. You remove their debris. You remove, you clear, call the police. They will come and perform their own role, and they will just clear it from there. There is a gun battle and you do not kill, you will not be safe any longer. So the same thing that is also happening in immunity, that is adaptive immune system. After the adaptive immune system have recruited different types of cells, some are used for memory, some are involved directly, they will paralyze the invading, that is they paralyze the antigen, they paralyze the pathogen. Sometimes after all this, they will now clear, they will remove their debris, and that is when they will now put them to kidney, and the kidney will process them and they will come out in form of maybe excretion and all this. That is what is called regulation. So ability to bring back the immunological and the immune system of the whole, to bring it back to normal. Don't forget that I told you part of sometimes the function of natural killer cells is just that you will begin to feel the symptoms of the antigen, of the invading pathogen. You begin to feel the symptoms. You see a kind of maybe some, you have a high body temperature, fever, as well as all this. So at a point in time when your immune system is now able to deal successfully by removing the bacteria or by removing the pathogen from the body, so after that high temperature, your body will now come to the normal, and that is what is called regulation. Your body will now regulate, including the body temperature, including everything will now be normalized again. So it is the adaptive arm of immune system that perform this role, and they do it as a kind of a level. So the last one, the last capability of the adaptive immune system is they always target, and they have targeted destruction of pathogens. They have targeted destruction of pathogens. So they will not at any point in that, because they are professionals, different pathogens with different level of response. For example, now no country can be safe if they do not have targeted destruction strategies to deal with their enemies. So, for example, there will be some time that the country will now decide that since the infection is coming from the air, so it is Air Force that will be recruited for that. Destruction by on ground, they say it is our soldiers that will go and do that. So the adaptive immune system, they have different pathogen immune system. For example, anywhere you have intracellular infection, that is intracellular, the host adaptive immune system will not go and recruit cells that cannot go down inside. For example, when you see, for example, now malaria parasites reside or live inside the red blood cells. If there is going to be elimination or clearance of malaria. That means the host immune system should be able to come and deal with the malaria parasite inside, right inside the red blood cell, not a kind of strategies that they will not be acting outside the red blood cell. It's not going to be effective. So the same thing, that different pathogens, they have different targets for them to be eliminated in the host. So, and this is part of a very, very important key for what is known as a adaptive immune response. And don't forget that I told you that basically the when you come at a point, you now say, oh, there are two arms of an adaptive immune system, which they will say, oh, this one is humoral and this one is cellular. Those ones that are cellular will involve T cells, and those ones that are humoral, that is involvement of B cells. And you need to know all before you actually go on. So humoral, then we also look at natural killer cells, as well as involvement of antibodies. See this. So, and whenever we now talk of lymphocytes, there are two basic types of lymphocytes depending on the origin. If it is developing from the bone marrow, if it is coming from, okay, two of them will come from bone marrow. Two of them, they originate from hematopoietic cells of the bone marrow. Don't forget that I said that. Of the bone marrow. Don't forget that I said that. So if it is coming from B cell, if it is going to be B cell, that means it is going to come from B cell, that is bone marrow. It's going to come from bone marrow. So then T cells, there are two types of T cells. Two types of T cells. We have cytotoxic T cells and helper T cells. So cytotoxic, they have their own function. So, and that's where we look at CD4 and CD8. Each of these, they have what they do. So then later on, we look at the MHC class 1 and class 2, which has to do with major histocompatibility complex and so on. So that is where we are going to stop today. That's where we are going to stop today. By the time we return in the next video, we are going to actually examine our adaptive immune system, and we are going to start picking them one after the other. We'll pick B cells, we'll pick T cells, we'll pick STREG, that is regulatory T cells. Don't forget that I said adaptive immune system should be able to regulate. There are some cells that are professional. Then don't forget that you need to know that if an host want to be immunologically competent, that host should be able to put up what? Diverse response. Because that is a versatility of the immune system. That is telling you that that host is immunologically competent. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share. Thank you.